Hi, welcome to the garden today. My name's Gary, and today I'm going to be talking about how you can double your harvest on your tomato plants if you're growing in the South. And I do say in the South because growing tomato plants in the South is different than growing them up north. And I know I was watching a YouTube video of somebody up north, and they was growing tomatoes, and everything they were saying, or almost everything they were saying, doesn't work down here. So the two main things that you need to do to really ramp up your harvest of tomatoes. First thing, you need to plant early. You're going to hear people say, wait till the soil warms up. You don't want to plant your tomatoes too early because they won't grow in cold soils. This is January 4th. This soil is plenty warm to grow tomatoes right now. Now I'm not going to because we know we're going to get some cold weather later on. But our soil does not freeze down here. If you're up north and your soil freezes and it stays frozen for weeks on end, this advice isn't for you, because in that case, that man's right. Don't plant your tomatoes too early. But our soil temperatures don't really fluctuate. They very seldom, even on a cold winter, get below 40 degrees. So normally, if it comes up in February, normally our soil temperature is warm enough. So he was saying, wait 2 weeks after your first frost date, okay? I'm the opposite. Go 2 weeks before your first frost date, all right? Why? Because you can do it. You can make it. And what I'm saying is, for me, our first frost date is March 5th on average. I try to plant mine February 14th, 15th, right in there. I might not, but I want to have tomato plants ready to go in the ground at that time. Now, a few years ago, we had Snowmageddon. And it was on February 15th and 16th, I believe. It was on a Monday and a Tuesday. We had lows of 12 degrees and 16 degrees back to back. However, I planted because I looked at the forecast after Snowmageddon was over with, and I planted my tomatoes, half of them I planted the next Sunday, okay? The other half I planted the next weekend. So within a week of Snowmageddon, or a week and a half of Snowmageddon, I had all my tomato plants planted. I covered them up one time, and what you have to do, that's my phone going off. I did it one time, and that was it. So yes, you do have to cover them. You can cover them, if you got these big tubs, that works fine. 5-gallon bucket will work fine. Plastic does not work well, but the frost blankets work really well. You just want to be able to cover them all the way into the ground because you're mainly trying to keep that frost off the ground. That's usually what's going to hit you. It's not freezing temperatures, it's frost. And you get that month jump. And the other thing you kind of said that was wrong, you don't have a long time to make tomatoes in the South. Because you said, well, you go from the point of the first frost date to your last frost date. That doesn't mean anything down here. Because we got a thing called summer. Happens in July and August. It's going to wipe everything out, except for a few certain crops. And tomato plants will almost always wipe them out. So honestly, for me, July 1st, I'm pulling all my tomato plants out. So what that says, if I plant mine in February 14th or 15th, I've got, and it's, let's say 60 or 75 days, make it easy. So we got to March 1st, April 1st, May 1st. May 1st, I'm starting to make tomatoes. And I make tomatoes all the way up through July. So May and June, or May and June, okay? Now, if I wait till a month later to plant my tomato plants, guess what? I only got 30 days to make my tomato plants in, and it's in June. Sometimes I'll actually get early and I get 2 weeks in April. But what I'm really trying to say is you're going to double your growth season just by planting those early. Now the other thing that you want to do, and the other thing is many times we'll plant the wrong type of varieties. There's two types of varieties grow in Texas. Our main two varieties or types is determinate and indeterminate. Determinate will make a concentrated set of tomato plants. They grow a lot at a set of tomatoes at one time. They don't ripen all at one time. They tend to ripen like in 3 different stages. You know, 1 week to 10 days. They have another crop 1 week, 10 days, another week. So you got around a month of harvest off those tomatoes. But guess what? A month's about all we're going to have anyway. They do set a lot of tomatoes. They will produce a lot of tomatoes. The determinant means it's got to determine height, not determine production, but determine height. So they're just going to get 4 or 5 foot tall, and that's it. You know, they don't continue to grow up massive. An indeterminate type will put on tomatoes all along the vine, but that vine may extend up to 20 foot tall if you get it that tall. They're saying nursery in some of the greenhouses and stuff, they actually do that. But in our gardens, they're going to get 7, 8 foot tall, maybe 10 foot tall, but they're long and they just don't produce as much. Now, taste-wise, the average indeterminate variety will taste better than the average determinate varieties. Now, that doesn't mean that's not a, you know, sometimes you have a determinate variety will taste better than indeterminate, but by and large, and a lot of time it's just because the determinates are having such a big fruit set, the taste isn't quite there, but they've improved the varieties and improved the taste. Up north, indeterminates will make all summer long, so they're a great choice. But down south, again, we have a short growing season. So remember that. Now, one thing, if you're going to be trying to plant early, you may not be able to find the tomato plants at that time, so you're going to have to produce your own tomato seedlings. I will be planting my seedlings. And another thing that he also said, it takes 6 to 8 weeks. And I always see this in magazines and catalogs, 6 to 8 weeks to produce a tomato plant. And I'm telling you, you can do it in 4 weeks. If you do it inside your house and temperature stay around 70 degrees. The temperature in our house usually stays at 70 degrees, because today we're probably gonna hit 70 degrees. Yesterday we hit higher than 70. We have 75, 80 degrees like yesterday. So we tend to have some warm temperatures. But if you're gonna do that, these are these trays that you get in the store. Whenever you buy your plants, they're cheap. You take them out, you push the tomato up through the bottom part. A lot of times you got to rip the sides down like this to get the tomato plant out. These are horrible. These are bad. The only thing worse than these is those cocoa core, those little discs that you buy. Those are worse than these. But if you can afford it, try to upgrade on this, all right? You don't have a lot of money. Burpee did come out with this system now. And basically, I like this system here because it's got a tray to catch your water. It also has got these sides. You can pull them out. So if you got too much water in the bottom of it, you can pour it out and set it back down so they're not sitting in water. You can kind of see from this angle here how much water is in it. So if you only got that much water, you're okay. If it's up to around here, you need to pour that water out. You don't want to drown your plants. The other good thing is it's made out of that plastic where you just take them, you can push it out, and you can push those plants out and plant them. Now, it should be to where those plants will pop out easy anyway, if the tomatoes are big enough, because usually that's how you tell if you can pull them out, they're big enough to transplant. And you want to transplant about this tall. You don't necessarily need that transplant at this tall. Now, sometimes I get them this tall because I may have them ready first part of February, and they go another 3 or 4 weeks before the conditions are that I can plant them. But anyway, or sometimes I plant them too early. But I used to always try to plant them early because they said 6 to 8 weeks, and I always had tomato plants just way too big. The other trays that I found is this tray here, and this is a PropTech 162 tray. It's gonna grow a lot of tomatoes. This is the one that gets 162 cells. It's got a nice hole in the bottom of it, so you can take a pencil or a pen or whatever and just push them up from the bottom like this. You need a skinnier pen, but you get the idea. They work really well. I like them. I've got some trays that go underneath them. This is what the industry uses if you're going to have a place that is going to be producing a lot of tomato plants. This is what they use. These things will last a long time. I've had these 4 or 5 years, have not taken care of them. They've sat outside so they don't get brittle, or haven't yet, and they're really nice. But you do want to try to grow the right varieties on your tomato plant. So be looking at the varieties, see which ones grow down here. Some tomatoes just can't handle the south. I found Roma tomatoes don't do very well, but I've got one called Invincible that does really well. Shelby's another one. If you want a paste type tomato. Beefsteak is a is a variety of tomato, one of the great big ones. They tend not to make very well down here. You do got some big slashers. You got Hasselnator, you got Red Snapper. They've got a lot of disease pressures, you know, because your variety of tomatoes does matter, because some of them have, you know, and a lot of times it's on the dormant varieties. I mean, the determinate varieties. There, you may have some disease out here, tomato spotted wilt virus, nematodes. They've got resistance to that. So you look at most catalogs, are going to show you the resistance that they have. I know Burpee does it for some reason. I don't know why they don't, but I know Will Hyatt does, Haas Tools does, any of the, you know, tomato people. That's one thing that they'll often, on a hybrid tomato, you'll see, and even some open pollinated may have a resistance to a certain disease. You want to get as much resistance as you can, because you've got to make those plants early. If you don't grow them early, what happens is sometime in June, it's going to get temperature get too high. You're not get the pollination. Humid conditions can prevent pollination once your temperature gets up a certain level. If it gets above 95 degrees, the pollination is not viable. So it'll bloom, but the blooms will fall off. Second thing that happens is once your temperature gets above about 95 degrees is the ripening enzymes slow down, and it takes longer for that tomato to ripen. Third things that happen is every pest known to God's creation comes down and decides to attack it. You got leaf-footed bugs, you got aphids, you got the stink bugs, just all kinds of bugs, hornworms. They're going to invade. So it's best if you get that crop off early. So again, if you really had struggling for growing your tomatoes down south, I can bet you one thing is you're not planting them early enough. Just remember, you may have to protect them once or twice, but that's not that big of a problem. Anyway, thanks for watching. And this is going to be the area where I'm going to be growing my tomatoes. I'll keep y'all updated on it. Have a good day. Goodbye.